If the knocking comes from inside, don't answer it. The story begins on a cold night, the kind of night where the world feels too quiet, like it's waiting for someone to make a mistake. My name is Daniel, and I grew up in a small house on the edge of town. Nothing special, nothing haunted, just an old place with creaking floors and windows that stuck when the weather changed. But one window, the one in my bedroom, always felt wrong. See, when I was 8, I used to hear tapping on that window in the middle of the night. I would look outside and see nothing. My parents said it was branches or birds or my imagination. Except we didn't have trees close enough for branches, and birds don't knock in patterns. And imagine all you want, but imagination doesn't breathe. I grew up pretending the window was normal, but deep down, I always knew something stopped on the other side of that glass, waiting. Years passed. I moved out, started a life, tried to forget. But when my father passed away, I had to return to that house to pack up everything. The moment I stepped inside, the air felt familiar in the worst way. Cold, still, heavy. I kept telling myself it was grief, just grief. The first night, I slept in my childhood bedroom because every other room was filled with boxes and dust. I placed my bags on the floor, turned off the light, and tried to sleep. But the house woke me before I drifted off. A soft tap, like a fingernail, on the window. I froze. Another tap, and another. Slow, spaced out, like someone testing if I was awake. I didn't move, didn't even breathe. Then it stopped. I laughed at myself, a shaky, nervous laugh, and pulled the blanket up, trying to ignore it. But then, something knocked from inside the room. On the window. A single, loud knock from behind me. I jumped to my feet so fast I nearly tripped. The window was closed. The curtains were still. Nothing had moved, but the knock had come from inside, like someone was trapped between the glass and the room. I didn't open the curtain. I didn't want to see anything on the other side. Instead, I turned on every light, blasted my music on my phone, and stayed awake until sunrise. The next day, I convinced myself I imagined it. Stress, fatigue, memories, all mixing together. So I continued packing boxes, sorting old photos, and trying not to look at the bedroom window. Everything was normal until I found the journal. My father's handwriting, shaky, uneven, like he wrote in a hurry. The entry on the last page said, "Don't open the window, no matter how politely it knocks." My heart dropped. Underneath, in a rushed scribble, "It copies the sound of people you love." I closed the journal, hands trembling. My father never talked about ghosts or paranormal stuff. He was a stubborn man who didn't believe in anything he couldn't touch. But that note, that fear in his writing, he believed something was in that house, and it wasn't outside anymore. That night, I made the dumbest decision of my life. I stayed again, and I kept the journal next to me like it could protect me. At 2:17 a.m., the tapping started again, soft, timid, like someone testing the glass with a fingertip. I pulled the blanket to my chest, staring at the window from across the room. Then the tapping shifted, sliding along the window frame, to the inside edge. The sound was wrong, slow, dragging, like someone moving their nails down the wall just beneath the glass. My pulse hammered as the dragging stopped. Then a voice whispered, "Danny, let me in." My mother's voice, but she's been gone for 12 years. I shook my head. No, 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 no. I whispered under my breath. Another whisper, low and trembling. It's cold, Danny. Please. I covered my ears, but the voice didn't sound like it was coming from the window anymore. It sounded like it was whispering inside the room. I grabbed my phone flashlight and pointed it toward the window. The curtain moved. Not from wind, not from a draft. It bulged inward, like a hand pressed against it from behind. Then a second hand pushed the fabric out, and a third. I stumbled backward, tripped on my bag, and crashed to the floor. The curtain slowly peeled to the side. Nothing was there. But the window. The window wasn't reflecting me correctly. My reflection was standing too close, too straight, too still. And when I raised my hand, it didn't. It just stared back at me with empty eyes. My reflection smiled first, a wide, cracked grin that stretched too far across my face. I ran, down the hall, down the stairs, out the front door barefoot and shaking. The house stayed silent behind me. But the last thing I saw before I fled the yard, my bedroom window slowly sliding open on its own. The next morning, the police went in after I gave them a panicked call. They checked the house top to bottom. All they found was an empty room. No sign of forced entry, no footprints inside the house, except mine. But the window in my room had one detail they couldn't explain. The glass was warped, like something had leaned against it from the inside, pressing too hard. I didn't stay in that house again. I didn't even go back for the rest of the boxes. But sometimes, late at night, in my apartment, miles away, I hear tapping on my window. Soft, slow, patient. And when I look, the reflection staring back isn't mine. Voiceover whispered, "Never open the window when the knocking comes from the inside." If you felt someone watching you while you listen to this, you're not alone. This is the digital nightmare. Subscribe before your screen goes dark.